Welcome to the Lights in the Night Show with Russell Johnson, who wants to talk about and reveal what the United States government doesn't want you to know about UFOs and aliens right here in this country and around the globe. Russell has been following this material for over 50 years and will have guests who will tell their stories from around the world. Take down the number to call in, 888-565-1470, because Russell wants to hear your story. Our show also invites you to send your pictures and videos to UFO@amp2.tv so we can show them on our program at lightsinthenight.tv. Now, let's get to the Lights in the Night subject matter and hear what the government has tried to keep quiet for over 50 years. Again, get ready to call 888-565-1470 and watch on lightsinthenight.tv. Now, here's Russell with today's show.
Hi, good afternoon, and thank you very much for tuning in. This is Lights in the Night, and we have Lady Christopher with us this evening. Thank you, Lady Christopher.
Thank you for having me again. Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be interesting.
I'm very excited.
I know.
Greg Canton.
Yeah, well, he's really a renowned expert in herbology.
And maybe we can ask him to join us next week and get some of that herbology wisdom for those people struggling with cancer and ailments, and that'd be awesome.
Oh, would it not? I mean, that's over the top. That's what we need to do. But tonight, tonight, I really wanted to talk about that new planet that he's talking about. Oh, Greg, are you with us? Greg?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you for calling in. I really appreciate it. This is Greg Canton. And do you have a website that people can look at, can go to? Greg?
Well, there's several. There's a site that's kind of a repository of my herbal work over the past 25 years. That's altcancer.com. I've had that up for 20 years now.
Can
Wow.
you repeat that?
It's alt, A-L-T, like the first three letters of alternative, altcancer, C-A-N-C-E-R, altcancer.com.
Awesome.
Uh-huh. And I was talking to George Green. He said you have gone through at least...
Sorry?
Greg? Are you still there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think there's a time delay.
Is what?
A time delay.
I think there's time delay.
Oh, well, take your radio. Don't listen to your radio.
No, I don't have any radio here. I'm at 10,000 feet in the Andes Mountains, and there's no radio signal here.
Oh, okay.
I mean, obviously, I could get it over the internet, but no, I don't have any radio on.
Okay, right. Okay, great. Anyway, Greg, we had talked earlier because obviously we've been talking about UFOs and aliens and abductions and crop circles and all the other issues that you are familiar with. There's a new planet, they say, that will show up in the next 6 to 8 months. Is that right? In the solar system?
That's what I hear. I mean, you've got everyone out there from Bob Fletcher to Gil Broussard and Marshall Masters. I mean, there's a number of people who kind of made this their making a career of this in a manner of speaking, and a lot of them, the things they have to say are really important. They've got some important things to say. I didn't, I've been following this since 2006, and at various times I've kind of just, tossed it out the window thinking, it may not, who knows. But what happened to me, do you actually want me to tell you the story of what the ETs have to say about this? Or
Please, we're very interested.
And the whole world is waiting for the message.
Okay. Catherine and I have a friend of ours in Guayaquil. Well, she's actually living in Vilcabamba now, but she originally hails from Guayaquil, our most populated city. And I get this phone call from her, and she says, how would you like to meet a man whose he and his wife, well, actually his wife, had a hybrid child with an extraterrestrial group from a planet in the Pleiades constellation.
Mm-hmm.
And this woman's a pretty serious person. She comes from one of the wealthier families here in Ecuador.
Mm-hmm.
And she probably sensed that I was a little bit, kind of, well, maybe not rolling my eyes, but certainly having my doubts. And she says, I want to tell you something before you answer. I want to tell you that I know some people here, some quite wealthy media moguls, one of which owns Ecuavista, and they had this guy and his wife subjected to a polygraph expert that they had fly down from the U.S. They passed with flying colors.
Wow.
I said, really? I said, well, when did this happen? And they said, oh, it's about 1995. This happened like 20 years ago. So I said, okay, well, this happened 20 years ago. Why are you calling me now about this? She said, because I didn't know how to get a hold of this guy, and I finally found out how to reach him. In fact, he's even got a Facebook page now. And I said, really? She said, yeah, why don't you come down here to Vilcabamba, because he's in the same province. He doesn't live in Vilcabamba, but he's in the Provincia de Loja, which is just south of us, about a 5-hour drive. She says, why don't you come down here this weekend, and why don't you come down to Vilcabamba and meet this guy, and you can spend 2 days talking to him about everything that the extraterrestrials, this particular group, communicated to him. Now, this happened a year ago. This is July 1st now, and this happened like last week of June 2014, so this happened roughly 1 year ago. So I got my wife, and the two of us went down to Vilcabamba, and we had dinner that on a Friday night, and spent that night and all day Saturday and part of Sunday morning just grilling him over everything that had been communicated to him. He wrote a book about it. It's in Spanish. It's called Por qué vienen, which is roughly, the rough translation is Why Do They Come?
Mm-hmm.
I had it translated into English, but I'll give you the highlights because I think it's pretty interesting.
Please.
One of the things that I found most interesting of all is that, I've followed ufologists, even though I'm an herbalist, and I've had an interest because of the fact that my life as an herbalist has taught me just how much of the things that are issued forth from officialdom are just complete nonsense. So I always I'm always skeptical because I know that if it comes from people in authority, it's probably false. That's a whole other line of discussion we won't get into. But anyways, when it comes to ufology, they don't exist, they don't exist, they don't exist, they don't exist. Okay, fine, they don't exist, okay. And the interesting thing is, it's so funny to hear people say not exist. And I want to say this as an aside before I get back to my run down to Vilcabamba. I spent half a century, I'm 59 years old, I spent half a century thinking, tell me you've seen a UFO so I know you belong in an insane asylum. I've never seen one. They don't exist. I've never seen anything. Okay. Then guess what? In 2007, I come to Ecuador. I moved to a place in the Andes Mountains, and I'm here to tell you, having spent my whole life never once, not one time, ever seen any of these suckers. And I moved to a place where, as long as there's a clear sky, can't be rainy, can't be clouds out, as long as the sky is clear, it is not possible to have a night with clear skies and not see a UFO. It is not possible.
Awesome.
There's no such thing as there's no such thing as having a clear sky and not seeing UFOs.
Wow.
So quite a difference from being a complete skeptic, thinking, I'm hearing all of this stuff, but I have never seen one myself. To moving to a place in South America where you see them all the time. So going back to Vilcabamba. Okay, so we meet this guy, and the story is as follows. He is out, he comes from a very poor family. These people are not affluent. Ecuador just in general is not a wealthy country. There's very little Ecuador has in common with Switzerland or Luxembourg, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So this guy is out fishing for rasca, which is it's a fish that likes muddy water. It's a source of sustenance to the poor people of southern Ecuador. So he is out fishing for rasca, and he sees these lights through the bushes and thinks, oh, it's some buddies of mine. They've got some flashlights, and they've come to join me so we can fish and talk together. And as the lights got closer, he realized it wasn't his buddies at all. It was actually a craft. Craft lands. These three beings get out that are very humanoid-looking, and they approach him, and they say, and first of all, he finds out that they are able to translate with him, or able to communicate with him telepathically. He doesn't speak, and when he hears what they're saying in Spanish in his own language, he doesn't speak any English. He's strictly Spanish, and they tell him a story that they are beings who are from a planet that is translated as ecton, and it is in the area of the sky that we would call the Pleiades. But they said, do not call us Pleiadians, because that's a whole different race of humanoids that you people, that's a term that you people use for an entirely different group. We are not Pleiadians. And you know, the whole idea of a constellation is pretty fake anyways, because, there are some, if you looked into the sky and you look at, let us say, the constellation Hydra, the stars of that constellation all over the sky, the stars in any given constellation are many, many light years away from each other. So even the Pleiades, which is a group of, they're fairly close to each other, even within that group, the stars of the Pleiades are many light years away from each other, okay? So they said, don't call us Pleiadians, we're from the planet Ecton. And furthermore, let us tell you a story. First of all, we have learned something that you have not yet learned, that the farther that you travel down the path of technology, the farther you are removed from your roots, and the farther you are from nature. We, as a race, we have lost the ability to reproduce. We're not able to reproduce anymore. Unless we have the assistance of another hominoid group, and we know how to do this, only then are we able to carry on, because this is the point we have reached. We've already learned this. You are yet to learn this. We are your government and military people are many centuries ahead of the ordinary citizenry in technology, but we are 25,000 years ahead of them. And they described to him a situation. They say, first of all, we want your assistance, and the assistance of your wife. We have chosen you to help us. While this is happening, by the way, he was out fishing. He wasn't alone. His wife and two of his children were actually in the car sleeping at the time. So, to make a long story short, there's a series of subsequent meetings that result from this, and in the end, what happens is the wife agrees to it. He actually has to convince his wife, because his wife even to the point of convincing her it's all artificial insemination. No, you're not having sex with an extraterrestrial. It's all very professional, very clinical. And what came out of that is a child was born in 1990s, and it look more like us, or does it look more like them? And they said, actually, the skin tone and color is very much like the mother, but from the nose on up, especially the upper skull features are very much like them. But this child was considerably more intelligent than a pure Homo sapien child. But anyways, to get back to it, the relevancy of where we are right now, which just happens to be July 2015, they said that in the 1990s, they said to him, you have a planet that's returning. You'll hear more about it. There are not many people talking about it now. Your governments know about it, but they're keeping it secret from you. And this planet, Nibiru, Planet X, or Kerberos, whatever you want to call it, the destroyer, etc., Wormwood, it's going to return. And when it does return, there'll be enormous cataclysms of such great an extent, the extended underground facilities that the governments have been to protect their own elite will not actually help them. This planet, there will be no one left on your planet in the beginning of 2016 who does not know that this is returning. This planet, I hope I have the numbers right when I say this. They said that it was actually this planet that was the cause of the story of Noah, which is not only, of course, told in the Bible, it's always also told in the story of Gilgamesh. And what caused the 40 days of flooding that most people are familiar with, if only from the story in Genesis, was the fact that the Earth used to have rings, very much like Saturn has rings. These rings are in space. They're made of ice. And it came close enough to heat them up and melt them. And when the rings melted, they were caught within the gravitational force of Earth, and that caused the fabled 40 days and 40 nights of flooding that purportedly only Noah and his family survived, and so forth. Okay, so you get that's where that story comes. So that was somewhat different, and and then they went on to tell him that. And this part I know is hard to swallow. I again just realize that I'm not. This doesn't come from me. I am just faithfully reporting what I was told. I am not subscribing to this. Again, there's certain things. I'll tell you when I'm finished telling the story. I'll tell you the parts of it that absolutely stunned me, that I was amazed by, synchronicities I can't quite get my head around, and the parts of it that I have to say, oh man, that's a bit to swallow. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. We won't shoot the messenger.
You know how you've heard. If you guys have studied ufology, you know the standard. You know the position of many of your evangelical people and Jacques Vallée. You know that there is a certain storyline that all ETs are extremely evil, and the connection between them and the fallen angels. You're aware of this narrative, are you not?
Yes, we are. Yes.
Yeah. The idea.
So
we see UFOs. Like I said, every time we have a clear sky, we see we see a clear sky. And I have a neighbor of mine who comes up, and we'll sit outside in my pergola, and we'll have coffee, and we'll look up at the sky together.
All right.
And it's a frequent thing of him to look up in the sky and point to the craft and go, "If your intentions are good, come down. We'll talk to you.
Okay.
If your intentions are not good, go F yourself."
Okay. We're 20 minutes into the program, so we have about 10 minutes left or less. Can we... Okay, point up the things that are consistent, the things that shock you, the things that we need to become aware of. Could you delineate?
Well, I think the part that stunned me is the close parallel between that and what Christians refer to as the rapture. They actually talk about, we're here to basically take up DNA samples, preserve species, because you people are in complete wipeout right now. You're in complete, you are on complete habitat collapse. I mean, he was telling him this in the 90s. You're in habitat collapse. We're on the road to wiping out. Your elite have basically declared war on all carbon-based life forms. You're in a declaration of war on DNA.
Okay.
You're going to lose it all. But we're going to take up X number of humans into craft, and we have the ability to bend time-space. You don't have that technology, but we do. And we're going to take X number of people. They're going to be gone for one day. But we're going to bend time-space so that it's going to take about 1,000 years to clean this all up. So we're going to let you destroy yourselves, and everybody else who we don't take is going to die. And the planet is going to become a complete waste dump, post-industrial waste dump. And we're going to come and we're going to clean it up, and then we're going to redeposit the people that we've taken back on the planet. You're humans. You don't belong on any planet. You're not fit for any of the planet. This is your planet, and we have the assistance of other higher beings. They even was very hard to believe. They even mention the fact that they even have the return of Jesus Christ in their narrative, which was something that's so far beyond anything I heard from Jacques Vallée. And by the way, I'm not critical of these people. You know, I actually do believe Jacques Vallée. I think the vast majority of these creatures, I think, are highly questionable. I think they are evil. You know, I think that there's a real lack of benevolence among these beings, and I know that the people in the New Age movement likes to fashion that they're all here to help us, and I don't see that at all. You know, if you listen to the works of the Gnostics and the works of the Zoroastrians and all the old Vedic texts and so forth, they always tell the story that, the reason our planet is so screwed up is they invented this thing called government. And they're run by ETs, and they have been for the last 6,000 years.
And they say they also gave us religion so that we can behave ourselves. Is that right?
Well, everything from monocrop agriculture to domesticating pets to, there's a lot of things that we have gotten because of the influence of extraterrestrials. A lot of this is talked about in the Sumerian text, works of people like Dr. I. Citron, et cetera, et cetera. I'm talking too fast for a lot of your listeners, but we have a time constraint here, so that's why I'm doing that. But the point I'm trying to get at is, I left that weekend. I left Vilcabamba a year ago, stunned, because if any of the new information that's coming out by a lot of these people are true, it's kind of looking like we are in for a big surprise in early 2016. I think they can pour all the chemtrails they want up in the skies. I don't think they're going to be able to prevent people from seeing this.
Okay.
I think it's going to be 2.
In your paper, it says it's known that up to 65 different civilizations are currently arriving and visiting us. Is that where you are?
That's probably about right. I mean, I think it's the exact numbers but you get down to hair splitting. It probably, my guess based on all the things that I've read and seen and witnessed and so forth over there, probably between 50 and 60 species here now. Yeah, some of which are just vying for control and vying for, it's kind of like if you're at a party with a good number of alcoholics. The real tragedy is someone taking away the party punch bowl. So, of course, you really want to celebrate and have a good time before the party punch bowl. This event that's coming is going to take away the party punch bowl. That's why these things can getting more evil and more corrupt than you've ever seen before. Why there's been such a huge uptick in the gloves are off.
Okay.
The gloves. Wow, this is a declaration of lunch to ordinary people all over the world. Look what's happened in the last ever since 9/11. I mean, where's our world gone since 9/11?
What's happened to you since you had that sitting?
What now?
What's happened with your life since you got that information and met that couple?
I tell you, a lot of contemplation, because beyond a certain point, we have to consider the spiritual ramifications of all this. I mean, if we're headed if we're heading in a direction where this planet has such extensive habitat loss, and believe me, make no mistake about it, Jay Widener's right. If this thing arrives the way these guys described, you don't have one Fukushima. You've got 400.
And
okay?
so who would they choose? Just random people or people that are more heart-based?
Heart-based. As a matter of fact, Jose Iguana went so far as to say that his whole chest lit up just in the presence of these beings. His encounter, it sounds nothing like, let us say, the encounters that are detailed by John Mack in his work. He said these people he said, I felt a joy and my whole chest just lit up in their very presence. They were just the emanation of pure love. That's all I felt in their presence was just pure love.
Oh, that's awesome.
He emphasized that repeatedly. Yeah, and nothing like the descriptions that you hear about from so many people who have had UFO abduction. And by the way, these two weren't abducted. At all times, there was enormous respect for these creatures. Like, we thank you so much for helping save our species. We would die if it were not for couples like you. And they never abduct a woman. They will not approach a woman without getting the commitment. And by the way, Jose told me he knows himself just of a dozen other couples that will come to. They don't take the woman. They approach a couple. And they will not do the process unless there's approval both on the part of the woman and whoever her husband or significant other is. They will not do this without, they have to obtain your permission to do this.
Okay, all right.
That's nothing like, all these other abductions, they don't get people's permission, they just take whatever they want. They're kind of like our governments, right?
Right.
We have about 3 minutes.
Okay. I have a question. What happened with the child? Where is that child now?
They were permitted to see the child in 2011, when the child would have been 15 years old.
All right.
And they were told that because of an assignment that this child had, because at that point, in terms of intelligence and growth and everything else, at 15 years old, that child was a fully an adult. Okay? And they were told that, however, that would be the last time that they would see the child.
Okay. Listen, did you, briefly, we have 1 minute left, that's all.
Yeah.
Did you see The Fourth Kind? Did you see that about Nome, Alaska? Did you ever see that motion picture?
No, I haven't.
Okay, fine. You might want to get The Fourth Kind. It's a true story that happened in Nome, Alaska, and that's revealing, if you will, in terms of what you have just stated. Hey, listen, we're all out of time.
We'd love to have you back next week and talk about your real gift, your herbs.
Is that possible?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's put it on your schedule for next week, because I think we want to talk about what people are saying, the cure of the cancer, and don't get the flu shot and all of that. We want to talk about that next week. So is that possible?
Yes, we can do that next week.
Oh,
Okay.
that would be awesome.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being with us. I appreciate it. We had some little bit this distortion in the communication, but we hopefully we can clean that up by next week. Lady Christopher, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg.
You want to talk about this? We have about 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here it is. My best-selling book with Joe Vitale and a bunch of other authors called The Midas Touch.
Where can you get that?
And you can get this on Amazon.com, or I can do personal copies on my Facebook, Christopher Barrett, and I can send them out to you, signed personally.
All right, Christopher Barrett. Okay. You want to spell that last name?
Barrett, Barrett.
Well, thank you very much. Hey, thank you, Lady Christopher. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Russell. This is fun.
Oh, this is fun. Next
This
week,
is great.
Next week is going to be off the wall. We will be talking about serious issues next week. And, of course, this was a serious program tonight. Thank you very much. So, tune in next week, same time, same place, right here at 1470.
Thank you for listening and watching The Lights in the Night Show with Russell Johnson. Today's show can be seen on lightsinthenight.tv. And remember to send your pictures and videos to UFO at amp2.tv, and perhaps they will be used on the show. Join us next week as we bring you more information on UFO sightings and aliens that your government doesn't want you to know about. Keep the information flowing, and we will see you next week on The Lights in the Night Show with Russell Johnson. The opinions expressed on the